That's interesting. So you kind of adhere to this KOAN principle that the student's voice is just as important as the master's, or the subordinate's voice is just as important as the boss's voice, right? So you use the 360. Do you use a generic 360 model or your own 360 model?
So we have several 360 models depending on the need of the customer. We do have for sales management or for entrepreneurship, but in perspective of this talk, so we do have models specifically for P3M, for portfolio, program, and project management that are related or that are linked to based on the PMI and IPMA model. Mm-hmm. So companies saying, okay, we use PMI, let's say, model. So then you can say, okay, how to use it further, and how can we then build training, mentoring based on what we already have developed.
So one of the advantages, this is what I always tell people when people say, why should I even be interested in IPMA, Prince 2, or PMI, the PMBOK guide, is because one way or the other, they all say the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. And instead of having this classical infighting within organizations to figure out what are the semantics, what is the nomenclature, what is the process, what are the details, how do we create a common understanding, a common process, and a common language, it's better to tap into something that's already existing. So in your scenario, if somebody comes to you and say, listen, we work according to PMI, you can basically use the existing understanding of vocabulary to assess them, to make it relevant, okay, and to give them feedback. So they they already have an existing checklist that they can work with, which creates familiarity of vocabulary, creates an opening as far as cognition and understanding is concerned. Yeah.
So the company has already a portfolio. Let's say the company, they already have this kind of habit of talking and using in the language of PMI or IPMA. Okay. So we just align reporting and the feedback to that system.
Okay. Let me ask you another question. I shouldn't, but I'm going to. Which model do you prefer? He's going to say something diplomatic now. I know he is.
Well, very frankly, I like a little bit more PMI.
Which one?
Because the PMI model.
Okay.
I
didn't pay you for this, but
because it's short.
Let's be fair, because I think I've outed myself. I used to be a former founder and PMI chapter president of PMI chapter Austria. I'm very proud of PMI, but I'm neutral. I always tell people that I interact with, my passion is project management. I have a great affinity to PMI because that's where I grew up. It's kind of my clan. But I don't go running around with PMI tattooed on my forehead, right? And I don't think you do either. I think the question is.
But you asked me a clear question, so
and I appreciate your answer.